This specific person's story was sent to me by a viewer back in August, I believe. I completely forgot about it and it slipped my mind. But before I read the story, I want to give all of you guys a trigger warning because this story is definitely probably going to trigger some of you out there, if not a lot of you out there. However, I think it's important that these stories are shared because this is the reason why I've said in some of my past videos that it is extremely important what kind of knowledge you come across and who your first potential manifesting teacher or who you see in this manifesting journey early on because it can totally influence you in the worst way possible. The title of this story is Manifesting an SP Who Essayed Me. This story is on Reddit. I might leave the link in the description below. And the story reads as follows. This guy that I feel like I have been manifesting my whole life actively, manifesting of 3+ years, essayed me. And I don't know if I should stop manifesting him or even how to begin letting it go. I tried, but I honestly keep going back. And I really want him still. Please have grace when interacting with this, though I know I am not owed that as I am making this public. Yes, I have seen a counselor for several years. She said it herself that she was unprofessional, so I am just seeking outside opinions here. When I met this man, I liked him for months and we interacted a little bit before he took advantage of me while I was drunk. At first, I downplayed the severity of the situation and acted unbothered towards him so that he would still like me. It ate me up inside, but I didn't have a lot of support to rely on, so I hid it. When I stumbled upon Sammy Ingram, I started to actively manifest him, and he ended up liking my photos on Instagram and watching every story, which he'd never done before. However, I stopped interacting with him as much, and he unfollowed me. I denied it mostly, but still checked his account a lot. Then he removed me as a follower, and I really started to spiral. As the years went on, I told more people what he'd done, all the while still trying to manifest him through the pain. I wanted an apology or an acknowledgement from him, but also validation in a relationship. I kept manifesting him, but saw no movement. I tried following him back, and he doesn't let me. I saw him in person, and he avoided me. He doesn't like the people know what he did to me, and I don't like that he took advantage of me. I'm not proud of my actions and how reactive I was following the incident, especially since I played it cool at first, but he won't even let me apologize. I was in and out of states of psychosis, unknowingly, but I want him and others to see that I've changed. Though I have a much better self concept, I still long for a relationship with him. I mean, he was my ideal man, especially physically, and it's just hard to let that go for some reason. I reacted and spiraled so awfully these few years, and I regret it so much because I feel like it ruined my progress, and my ego ruined it too. I'm wondering if there are ways to fix a manifestation that you've been breaking/slash sabotaging for years. Is it hopeless? I know circumstances don't matter, but this feels really hard to come back from. I apologize if this is distressing to anyone. I just don't know where to go from here. Thanks for the feedback. Man, man. My heart truly goes out to whoever this person is, and my heart goes out to all the people who have experienced something like this. When I think about it, it's stories like this, which is the exact reason why when I started my channel, I have always tried to present these teachings of law of attraction, law of assumption in a holistic slash sobering way for most people to understand because I understand that that's how it's going to work for most people. And I also understood that many of us in the world are in different spots in life. And I understood that people who are very new to LOA or people that are younger, because I don't know how old this person is that wrote this story, but I understood that people who are younger, etc., teenagers, maybe early 20s, mid 20s, that are just finding these concepts, I understood the importance of me preaching this message in a way to help those people that are just finding out about LOA to understand how this stuff is really going to work and should you be using it. Because in my opinion, this person in this video should not have been using these techniques in the way that it is sensationalized on YouTube in order to get this person back. In my opinion, part of the responsibility of being a content creator is you are supposed to know what to say on your channel potentially if you know new people who are in all types of situations are going to come across your channel and your material and how you are coming off and spreading your message to people. This is the danger of sensationalizing law of assumption on YouTube and these affirming principles on YouTube. Stories like this is the exact reason I do not sensationalize and why Tim does not sensationalize these LOA principles on our channels because we know that there might be some random 12-year-old, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old, 19 years old that is finding out about this content for the first time from us. They're finding out about these principles from our channels for the first time ever, and they need to be steered in the right direction. And if they watch our content for the first time and they think, oh, all I have to do is affirm in order to get over somebody who SA'd me or in order to get them back, to me, that's extremely misleading. And I know a lot of content creators mean well, but I really don't think they think about some of the stuff that they're doing and saying when they're making their videos, or I don't think that they are really thinking about the impact that they're having on their viewers that might be younger, that might be naive, because somebody who is younger, somebody who is naive, that has been through something like this, and the first YouTuber you find is telling you sensationalism about how these laws work, and you're just going to naturally believe them, that's extremely dangerous. And like I said, maybe they're not doing it intentionally. Maybe they are doing it intentionally. Maybe they're not really thinking about the repercussions they could have on somebody younger watching their content. I don't know. But again, this is why I put the responsibility a lot of times on the content creators because you have to know that all types of people from all walks of life in all types of situations, whether they are dire or not, they are watching your content. And so you don't know how your content or your message is coming off to people who are in very desperate situations like this person was. In situations like this, you can't blame the consumer in a sense. You can't blame the viewer who's watching the video in a sense because people like this, a lot of times they're looking for help because they don't know what to do. It's no different than a lot of times when I think about children. Children are young. Children a lot of times don't know what's right from wrong, what's bad, etc. And they rely on the parents. They rely on adults in their lives, adults that are around them, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a family member, aunt, cousin, whoever. They rely on people that are older than them to allow them to point them in the right direction to show them, hey, this is the wrong decision to make. Also, hey, this is the right decision to make. And this is how I look at this content creation stuff. I can't really place blame on viewers or consumers in situations like this because a lot of times these people they don't know any better potentially. They could be extremely young. They don't know how to handle these situations. They don't know what direction to turn to. So they're going somewhere to look for help. They're going to YouTube to look for help. They're going to somebody's channel to look for help. And they don't know that potentially what they're watching is wrong. But you, as a content creator, you calling yourself a teacher or a counselor or a therapist or whatever, you have the greater obligation, the greater responsibility to me to show what is real and how these things really should be applied. And I've made this statement in some of my past videos before. With great knowing comes great responsibility. So when you are in the position of a teacher or a counselor or a therapist, when you know more is expected from you. You are expected to be the more mature one. You are to be expected to turn the other cheek. You are supposed to be the one that probably is going to have to forgive first or forgive more often. Because in most situations, you are going to know more than the person who is coming to you for advice and guidance. So you being more patient is expected. You being more understanding is expectant. The person in this video said they've seen a counselor for several years and that they're seeking outside opinions. And this is again why you must know who is going to come to your channel potentially seeking that outside opinion and how your message comes across. There is nothing wrong with robotic affirming in certain situations. There's nothing wrong with going to channels like Sammy's channel for advice. However, when you are in situations like this, a lot of times LOA advice is not what you should be applying. And if you are applying LOA advice, you should be applying it towards yourself in these types of situations. You shouldn't be using these robotic affirming principles that you hear from a Sammy or whoever your favorite YouTuber is. You shouldn't be applying those principles to whoever your SP is to try to get them back. And for whatever reason, if you did try therapy and you didn't like it and it didn't work, if you were to choose a LOA coach to work with, you should only choose that LOA coach to work with in regards to understanding self concept stuff and understanding everyone as you pushed out. And you should work with a LOA coach who understands the concepts of really letting go and forgiveness and things like Ho'oponopono, those sort of things. Because if you were to work with myself and Tim on an issue like this, on like being SA'd, first of all, let me say this. Tim and I, if a situation is as serious as this, depending on how serious the situation is, depending on the story, Tim and I might not even work with you. We might send you to a therapist or say, we can't do anything for you. Or would ask, have you tried therapy first? Have you tried a psychologist first or any of that type of stuff? If you've tried that in a sense and all of that stuff failed, or you wanted to try some sort of different approach with self concept stuff, strictly to work on your self concept and your self love, and to be able to get to a place of healing and forgiveness and letting go, then maybe we could consider working with you on that. But we would never work with somebody and approach this situation from the standpoint of, yeah, we're going to give you affirmations to try to help get your SP back after you just got SA'd. That would never happen. I can promise you. And I totally understand this person wanting to look for outside sources, outside opinions after dealing with a counselor for years or doing whatever process they did going to therapist, because I know personally I've worked with people over the years that they've gone to marriage counseling or they've gone to a therapist or they've done other stuff and it didn't help. But after they worked with myself or they might have worked with Tim, whatever we did, whatever we practiced with them in our sessions, they did become transformative. They did see a change. They felt the weight lifted off of their chest or whatever the case might have been. So I'm not completely shooting down the idea of working with a manifestation coach on these ideas, but what I am saying is choose the right one. You know, work with people who are actually going to tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear, and kind of play into this story or whatever that you have potentially created for yourself. And just because they want your money, they're going to tell you, oh yeah, it's possible, or yeah, I'll work with you even though I have no clue what I'm doing because I've never dealt with somebody in a situation like yours, but I just want your money, so yeah, I'll work with you and I'll tell you what you want to hear. Honesty and integrity is what we need in this community as coaches. Good news is, reading the comments of this post, it looks like everybody seems to be in lockstep for the most part on how she should approach this situation, which always is a good sign and gives me hope. However, there are always those people who are blinded by the LOA advice. And I want to read to you a couple comments from people that they left on this thread. Some guy named Trillionaire Man said, you can manifest anything, so it's not hopeless. In fact, manifestation is instant. Time doesn't exist, so spiraling for years means nothing. You can shift at any time. You can have what you want. Trillionaire Man, no disrespect, but you don't tell somebody that got essayed this kind of advice. Telling someone that kind of advice after going through something like that, again, this is the blind bias in this community. This is the toxicity in this manifesting community. And it is just another example of the blind leading the blind. You know, I'm not sure if this person, Trillionaire Man, has ever been essayed, but My question is would you handle being essayed the same way that you were telling her to handle it? The thing that I realize about a lot of people is a lot of people give advice that they don't even take. Or a lot of people don't even know what advice to give because they've never been in those situations. So if you've never been in a certain situation like that where you've been essayed, it's easy to tell somebody that, yeah, you can manifest anything. So it's not hopeless. In fact, manifestation is instant. Time doesn't exist. So spiraling for years means nothing. You can shift at any time. You can have what you want. And there may be some people who can heal themselves that way for sure. But my years in working with people tells me that 99.9% of people will not get over being essayed that way. Most people will not get over essayed by robotic affirming. Most people will not get over essayed by visualizing. And I don't need to continue. Another comment I wanted to touch on briefly was from a person, Cordelia Blue, who mentioned, okay, respectfully, you can manifest anything no matter what. I'm surprised you're even asking that after watching Sammy Ingram. This person, Cordelia Blue, then goes on to make some other points, and it sounds like she's against this person manifesting this person back to Sater as well. But I wanted to touch on her point saying manifest anything no matter what. Because as much as that's thrown around in this community, most of us, we have limits on what we can manifest. Pretty much all of us have limits on what we can manifest. We cannot manifest anything no matter what. Nobody is going to manifest going to any of these other planets anytime soon. Nobody's going to go manifest going to the sun anytime soon, or Saturn, or Pluto, or Jupiter, or any of these. We you can't. There's limitations on what we can manifest. So get rid of this idea that, oh, we can manifest anything no matter what. No, there are limitations physically on what we can manifest and what we can't. When is the last time you seen somebody do 5,000 push-ups in a row, or 5,000 crunches in a row, 10,000 crunches, 100,000 crunches in a row? Pick a number. When's the last time you saw a million people flying with no jetpack, no nothing, just flying from wherever they gotta go to point A to point B? When's the last time you saw that? When's the last time you saw somebody stay awake for 10 years straight without sleeping? When's the last time you saw a baby born right out the mother's womb and the baby was speaking full coherent sentences? Again, this whole idea of you can manifest anything, this idea is being taken too seriously in my opinion. You cannot manifest anything no matter what. And to be frank, most of you won't. When's the last time any of your animals, your cats or your dogs, have risen from the dead after being dead for 5 days? I mean, actually dead, not in coma, not where stuff is still working. I'm talking about actually physically dead. How many of your animals have come back from the dead after being dead for 5 days? How many of you have walked up the side of a building or the side of a house with no equipment at all? No special sneakers, no nothing, just walked up the side of a building. How many of you have done that? How many of you have walked on water? So shout out to whoever this writer was who wrote this. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being vulnerable and using your situation as an example to help a lot of other people potentially, because it's not easy to come out and talk about this kind of stuff. So thank you. And I'm sure the viewers thank you. But if I'm in your situation, and if anybody's in your situation, manifesting an SP should be the last thing on your mind, in my opinion. You should be trying to, and if you are trying to manifest anything, you should be manifesting self love. You should be manifesting forgiveness for yourself as well as others. You should be manifesting on how to let go and that type of stuff. Because I assure you, if you do try to manifest a relationship with this person or anybody else afterwards and you don't really do the work that's necessary, it's going to be like icing a rotten cake. You know, the cake looks pretty on the outside, but underneath the cake is extremely rotten. You can't eat it. It's mold everywhere. You're eating it. Eating a slice is going to kill you. And what happens too many times is, I've said this in my past videos, you guys know, people change relationships to avoid changing themselves. And what happens when you don't really truly fully heal, you go from relationship to relationship making the same mistake. And what happens is you begin to trauma bond with people who might have experienced the same thing as you. And you think you're in love, but you're really not. You're just trauma bonded with somebody who's not a good fit for you. And a lot of times in these situations are kind of like Stockholm syndrome. Stockholm syndrome, for those that don't know, is when you fall in love with your captor. You fall in love with the person who has captured you or who abused you or whatever the case might have been. And a lot of times in these situations, and I don't know if this is the situation with this person, but a lot of times in these situations, when people get SA'd, sometimes they go back to whoever SA'd them, or sometimes they go back because they want to try to take their power back in that situation. And so what they'll do is they'll put themselves in those situations again and again potentially because they want to feel powerful instead of feeling powerless. And so they will go back to whoever did what to them to try to right or wrong in a sense. And I understand that logic, but that's not the way to go. That's really not the way to go. And you end up doing way more damage than good. So be aware. Please be aware. And if this is your first time ever coming in contact with my channel, this video, I hope this video has found you well. I hope you learned a lot. But please heed my words and be cautious because there's a lot of fluff out there in the community. There's a lot of empty promises out there in the community.